Hello and welcome back to Lorehammer. I'm your host Marcus, and joining me we got a panel of three other people. Hey Christian,
how's it going?
What do you got here? Chief Librarian Christian.
Yes, the chief librarian of the Lorehammers chapter, unelected.
Oh yes,
but
yes, the one who constantly sees his end come, but it never does. But maybe we'll find out. We also got Jordan. Yo, what's good? Venerable Jordanus, I think your Liber Malleus name was.
Emphasis on the anus, yes.
Yes, yeah. I think we locked you inside a dreadnought.
But he didn't need to be. He just forced him in there.
No, yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
And joining us again, we got Gothic Garnish James. Hey, welcome.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to be with you guys again. It's my third time, so it's Hello.
Staying up late for the Lorehammer boys.
Absolutely.
I love the dedication.
Of course.
Sometimes when we do Slanish episodes, we do like hand checks, keep everyone honest. But this will do like eyeball checks. Are you awake over there? Everyone awake? Cool. Well, we got an exciting episode here. We're doing minor xenos. We got the Loxatl, the Medusae, and the Megarachnid. So 3 pretty cool ones that we know some information about. But before we get into it, let's do some housekeeping.
Yeah, so I guess first up we got merch on Redbubble, guys. So don't forget to check out the Redbubble store. I'm assuming the link is in the description of the show, so make sure you go check that out. I got some Redbubble merch right up behind me, as you can see, if you are watching video. Right there, you got the Lorehammer poster. So I got the Lorehammer shirt.
Wow.
Also from Redbubble.
What a shill.
Nice.
Yeah, so check that out. Get your swag today.
And other ways you can support the show is through Patreon. You can join the Imperial Tithe and get an ad-free version of the show for only $2.50 a month. That is less than a cup of coffee during inflation times. And you can also get the video version for $5. So go ahead and hit that donate button. Help become a well-regarded member of the community.
And you can also watch the live stream as well. So if you want to get access to that, you can join the Patreon, as well as you can join the live chat room during the show as well, which is popping off nicely this evening or morning for me. And then you can also be a calling guest at the end of the episode, which is super exciting, and speak to the team here.
Yeah, I always love talking to people. The one comment is, get your mother a Lorehammer shirt for Mother's Day. I think that's a great idea. Very thoughtful. I think she would really appreciate it, Cool. Well, we got one more quick, not so quick. We got some Liber Malleus. We got a council meeting, an important council meeting before we get into the main meat of this episode. I've been talking about teasing the sundering of the Liber Malleus, and I got a little lore blurb, but before I read it, I'll just give you a quick teaser. The Liber Malleus is the official Lorehammer chapter that we were building. I said at one point at half a chapter, I meant half a company and a bunch of vehicles, and I want to collect some more. So let's all join together as a community and get some more. So the sundering is upon the Liber Malleus. In the wake of Guilliman's return and the great reshuffling of the Imperium, the Primarch himself has taken notice of the chapter's unusual structure, entirely composed of firstborn Marines, preserved by nothing more than centuries-old clerical oversight. Guilliman, ever the reformer, has issued a mandate. The chapter must either cross the Rubicon Primaris and conform to the new standards of war, or undertake a penitent crusade to atone for their resistance to progress. The ultimatum has sent tremors through the ranks, some brothers eager to embrace the powers and resilience of the Primaris form, prepare for the dangerous transition, believing it to be the best path forward. Others refusing, holding fast to the traditions and ancient philosophies of the chapter, convinced that their penance and service through knowledge and battle will speak louder than genetic alteration. The chapter stands on the brink of not destruction, but transformation. Its identity, once singular, now cleaved in two by the will of the godlike figure and the weight of its own past. So the chapter has been caught. Gilliman is like, why are you guys still firstborn? I thought we were past this. And busted, I suppose. So we're left with a couple options. We have 3 options essentially, and each one of you guys are going to take a position of the chapter. And then I have posted on the Discord a link in the Imperial Ties channel to a poll. And if you pick the pinned option, you can look at the poll and you can vote for these 3 options that we're going to be talking about, and actually vote for where the chapter is going to be going. So, Jordan, tell us about the first option of crossing the Rubicon and becoming a Primaris.
Yes, so it's time to cross the Rubicon. Reboot Gilliman himself ordered it, and we follow the will of the Primarch. The Primarch's transformation will enhance your strength, resilience, and battlefield capability beyond anything you've known. This isn't just evolution. It's the future of the Adeptus Astartes. Reasons? Number 1, Gilliman ordered it. Number 2, for enhanced warriors. And number 3, this is the future.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Adapt.
You raised some compelling
let's get on
arguments,
board. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I wish you did it in the. Yeah, I wish you did it in the
arbitrary-
Dreadnought voice.
Oh, sorry.
Its future is Adeptus Astartes. Something like that, but
I sense
all
a
good,
scheme
okay.
because if he's in a dreadnought, he doesn't have to do the surgery. He's just trying to push everyone else to become dreadnought.
Hey. Yeah, ancient Jordan. Tisk,
Up to no
tisk.
good.
Up to no good. Okay. Okay, yeah. So Primaris, fun, could be cool. Opens up a whole new model range because the first time we did the Liber Malleus, it was just firstborn Marines. So getting on hands on some Gravis Marines could be pretty fun. But let's talk about the next option, and that's staying firstborn. But we must go on a penitent crusade, and I'll tell you what that looks like later.
Cool. So, do you stay firstborn and walk the penitent crusade? Our legacy is not a burden, but a sacred trust. We are the living record of the Emperor's original vision, forged in the fires of the Great Crusade. To cast that aside would be to forget where we came from and who we are meant to be. So the reasons would be the legacy is important, the living record, and the Emperor's original creation.
Yeah, I like this concept of the Liber Malleus. The whole point of this chapter was to go around and hammer out the lore of the universe. Gilliman comes back and he's like, what? Everything's a mess. This is not the Imperium I remembered. Like, I need some type of library. So I like this, like, well, our bodies are the library of what the firstborn was, this kind of thought. When we did the Liber Malleus the first time, like I said, we did firstborn, but we didn't do a lot of things like Terminators, a lot of vehicle options, a lot of options were still out there. Centurions. So, still plenty of fun.
And those models are still available, so we got to get on it while stocks last, if that's the route that the chapter goes.
Yeah, exactly. And if we go that option, I'll pitch in, or we'll put it as an option to ship the rest of the Liber Malleus down to Panama. It wouldn't cost that much. I'm sure as a community we could do it for a couple $100. So that's a fun option. Stay firstborn. I love the tiny boys.
All right.
And the final option. And you'd think, well, what other options are there? Christian, why don't you show us what's behind door number 3 for the Liber Malleus?
Door number 3 by your always faithful chief librarian is Rebellion and Damnation. The Imperium betrayed us long ago. Loyalty to it is loyalty to a lie. We've uncovered truths they fear, knowledge that makes us stronger than they ever allowed. Power is everything now, and history will remember only the victors. So my proposal to the community is that the Imperium has betrayed us. We have learned more than they know, and power is everything, and history is written by victory. I'll even add my personal vindication is that I don't like that GW's forced the Primaris on us. So let's let's lash out and go full heresy here.
Yes, okay. It's a fun option. I do really like it. I wasn't open to this option until like 6 hours before this episode recording, and I'm like, oh shit, we could go chaos with it. And that's so far what's winning in the polls by the looks of it. So definitely go vote. What I like about going chaos is it opens up a whole new model range, obviously. But also we could tie it into the whole unbound idea. The Liber Malleus, like we said, they're all about collecting knowledge and artifacts, and it's bound to like have some chaos taint in there of like power and knowledge. So, you go chaos unbound and we can flesh that out a little bit more. So that could be fun.
I will also say that I may or may not be listening to the Whispers of the Warp as the chief librarian making this proposal.
Yeah. Yeah, like basically I think we know what happens to your character. Either we go rebellion and you live, or the other two options happen and we will kill you.
I mean, at this point, we kind of don't have a choice.
Yeah, you come out full heretic during the council meeting. It stays between us until the end. But yeah. Well, at the end of this episode, we will tell you the results, so you have a couple hours to go vote. And should be a lot of fun to see what happens to Liber Malleus. What are you going to do to my boy?
Look how they massacred my boy.
Yeah. All right, let's get into the minor xenos. The reason we're here, we got 3 very cool minor xenos. Each one of them is very different in vibes. It seemed like we got lucky on the last couple where they almost lined up in styles and flavors, but these are all very different. In this episode, we're going to be doing the Loxatl and talking about their overview, appearance, power and abilities, history, homeworld, culture, belief. We've done this a bunch. We're basically going to hit all the great categories. You want to know about the military? We got it. Galactic relations, they're not good, but we'll talk about it. First one up is the Loxatl.
Yeah, so the Loxatl are not soldiers, they're weapons. Cold-blooded, scent-speaking predators, bred for violence and perfected in the art of death. Where they go, silence follows, broken only by the staccato hiss of their fletchet blasters, tearing through flesh and ceramite. They are not bound by honor or allegiance, only by contracts and slaughter, often found working for chaos warbands or heretical traders. They embody mercenary efficiency, stripped of empathy, loyalty, or remorse. Few survive encounters with them. Fewer still recognize what hunted them before death. To the Imperium, the Loxatl are classified not as a species, but a hazard, an infestation of killers that seep into battlefields like living toxins. No pleas, no negotiations, just ruthless deployment. Their presence on the battlefield signals not just opposition, but annihilation. With muscle-strapped bodies built for leaping and stealth, and a metabolism honed for murder, the Loxatl do not march into war. They arrive unseen and unstoppable. How sentient are these creatures?
Very. To be in any of these episodes, you have to be a sentient creature.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you're looking at the artwork, they look like Komodo dragons. They look like lizards and
Yeah, they seem like very animalistic.
yeah.
They do have weapons and guns that they can use. They just strap them to their back, as I'm sure we'll get into here. But yeah.
Yeah, I get okay. I was almost maybe in my mind picturing like war dogs or something. You just strap them
with a bomb
Yeah,
and just let them go. You might as well leave those pictures up, Mark, because I'm about to talk about their appearance and biology. The Loxatl are horrors of function over form. Amphibian quadrupeds whose bodies glisten with a film of mucus suited for heat and motion. Their oily hides shimmer with a chameleonic shift, allowing them to vanish into smoke and shadow, invisible even to thermal optics. Lithe and flexible, they move with an unsettling silence, crawling across walls, ceilings, and through debris like a nightmare-given muscle. There's no upright posture, no humanoid shape, only slinking murder beasts with jaws meant to crush and limbs meant to coil. Their biology rejects human comprehension. Instead of a vocal cord, they communicate via glandular scent pulses, pheromonal signals that coordinate complex tactics in perfect silence. Their lungs are adept to thrive in the thickest of atmospheres, and their eyes, unblinking and soulless, process visual spectra far beyond the human range. Where humans bleed, Loxatl adapt. Where others panic, they hunt. Every biological facet is designed to bypass armor, exploit terrain, and end lives with military precision. Yeah, and as we can see, they're the interesting thing about them is they are quadrupeds, like Jordan was saying. Like if you just hear them described, you kind of like get the idea that they're very animalistic. But no, there's an intelligence behind it for sure.
Yeah.
That's pretty terrifying that you can't see them with thermals, isn't it? That is pretty. You can just imagine that in a movie, can't you? The thermals, you can't even see
Yeah.
these things crawling around in like the air ducts and stuff, and very
Yeah, the
alien.
crawling is what creeps me out with it, where they're crawling on the walls and just like,
Yeah.
dripping oily gunk on you.
Mucus all over you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty nasty. Cool. So we jump into the powers and abilities. So the Loxatl fight with ferocity that borders on mechanical. Armed with flechette blasters, a weapon seemingly grafted to them rather than wielded, they turn ambush into massacre. These blasters spit hails of razor darts capable of perforating power armor and scouring flesh from bone. Their mobility is inhuman. They leap impossible distances, scale vertical surfaces mid-combat, and vanish before retaliation can begin. Each movement is calculated, each shot synchronized through scent-coded battlefield data. But it is their coordination that makes them truly lethal. Without a word or signal, Loxatl squads act as one, a pack of murderers bound by chemical instinct. While other troops stagger under suppressive fire or faltering chaos, Loxatl execute maneuvers with eerie grace. They strike at weak points, surrounded with surgical speed, and eliminate with surgical detachment. No posturing, no hesitation, just war-made flesh, cold and efficient. I think what would be interesting to understand here is like how big a group of these do they hunt together? Is it like, do you have a squad and then you have a couple of these, or do they hunt in like packs of like 10 or 15? I think that's quite an interesting thought.
Yeah, like I think they're more kill team scale. Like if we were gonna see them on tabletop, that's I think we would see these guys.
Yeah.
The interesting thing too about is how they communicate too, because if like they probably don't operate alone because that might have some issues with like being able to communicate. So probably small squad at the smallest. Yeah.
I like that. Like I could just picture them clinging to the ceiling and the walls, and they're just licking the air, tasting the pheromones of the other pack creatures. Okay, when are we about to go? Yeah, and it's just that no technology, like you're saying, James. We don't see it on thermals. We don't catch it on radio waves. Like it's all just their own kind of little world that they kind of control.
It's very cool.
We look down and around. They're up on the ceiling, looking down at us. Like, very different. All right, let's talk about their history. The Loxatl have no history worth myth or monument, only trails of corpses and the memory of terror. Their presence has been recorded alongside the traitorous Blood Pact and other enemies of the Imperium, serving as mercenaries without ideology or loyalty. Wherever they are found, they are not leaders. They are the blade hired by the hand of heresy. They do not seek glory. They sell death, and those who hire them often do so knowing the price is not just thrones, but in trust and control. They were first encountered in the Sabbath World's Crusade, where their uncanny stealth and battlefield effectiveness drew Imperial strategists into disarray. Standard countermeasures failed, and entire squads vanished before contact was confirmed. The Loxatl do not fight to hold ground, and they fight to erase it. Their history is not one of culture or empire, but of operational deployment. They exist in war zones like rot in wounds, unseen at first, fatal when ignored. Yeah, cool.
Sorry,
It just seems like
so I was going to say, like, what's interesting is that they're mercenaries, and I'd love to understand. I'm not sure this is covered, but if 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 they're mercenaries, then some kind of payment must be made. And I wonder what that would entail for a species like this. Like, do they? I mean, would they take money, or do they trade in like kind of like for their services as a mercenary? What do they get in return? I think that'd be really interesting
yeah.
to understand.
Yeah, like is it like the Kroot where like if you pay us in meat and bones and we're happy?
Yeah.
Like these guys feel like that could be a very similar like you let us keep the corpses as the thing we killed as trophies and good deal. But it has to be more than that too.
Mm,
And maybe it's like resources such as like raw metals and minerals where
mm.
they don't want to be mining that. That's not their vibe,
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
definitely. It's cool.
All right, let's get into the homeworld and galactic geography. The Loxatl's homeworld is lost to the stars, perhaps destroyed, perhaps abandoned, or perhaps so hostile that it remains forbidden even to their kind. What little is known suggests it lies outside the Imperium's charted domains, deep in the unknown margins, where xenos horrors thrive unchallenged. No Imperial cartograph marks it, and no diplomat dares seek it. It is a world not of origin, but of exile, unspeakable, unreachable, and unworthy of mercy. Now, the Loxatl spread like a virus, detached from home, embedded in war. They operate far from any known base of power, appearing only where blood is currency and death is demand. They do not colonize, they do not conquer, they deploy. Loxatl units can surface on a hive world, a demon-haunted battlefield, or the void corridors of trader fleets. Their allegiance is transient, their location wherever the next contract lies. Their home is war, and war is everywhere.
yeah, going into that, like, what is their motivation? Because it's definitely not empire building at all. We have
I mean, they're
no
kind of
examples of any of that.
they're almost kind of, I don't know, like rat-like. They just go to wherever there's food, and to them, food
Mm.
is just war. So
Yeah, yeah. You pay an orc in war, and he's happy, and maybe the Loxatl are the same way.
I
yeah.
can imagine Dark Eldar probably use them a lot as well. They seem to have an affinity for Chaos Warbands. Why that might be, who knows if there's a warp connection there, or if it's just they happen to get into lots of fights. But I can definitely see Dark Eldar also taking advantage of their mercenary nature, which is also an interesting thing. I find a lot of fiction has this almost like a species or alien race that's like always like a pirate / mercenary group. And these aren't the only lizard mercenaries too. The what is it? Dogs of War, or what are they called? The other, yeah, the
Tyranids
Tyranian dog soldiers. Yeah, that's another kind of like very mercenary lizard race. It just seems like a trope. Halo has like their jackals are more avian, but there's definitely a lizard side to them as well, which come to mind when I.
Yeah, we were comparing them to Kroot the other night, the jackals and
Oh yeah,
stuff.
yeah, that's also
Little
good.
bird mercs.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that piracy mercenary lifestyle seems to be a very I don't know, like a trope that seems to come up a lot in sci-fi. But on that note, we'll go into their culture and beliefs. The Loxatl possess a culture. If the Loxatl possess a culture, it is one buried beneath layers of predation and mercenary pragmatism. They do not build cities, sculpt monuments, or etch words into stone. Their culture is combat, hierarchies determined by kill counts, social dynamics driven by survival and profit. They do not worship gods nor mourn the fallen. Loxatl do not sing of their dead. They consume the lessons of defeat and move on, as cold-blooded in memory as they are in physiology. Their beliefs, if they can be called that, revolve around utility. Nothing is sacred, only effective. Bonds are chemical, not emotional. Scent-born loyalty dictated by pheromone commands, not kinship. Leadership is assigned, not earned, and when one fails, the pack moves without hesitation. There's no ceremony in their cohesion, only instinct and precision. If the Imperium clings to faith, and the Eldar to fate, and the Loxatl cling to nothing but the mathematics of survival. And that also tends towards that very kind of animalistic. They seem like, again, they are fully sentient and stuff, but they seem less evolved in that they don't care for culture building. They don't care for, expanding knowledge or poetry. Like, it's literally just survive, do what benefits you in survival, i.e. mercenary activity, and just move on.
Yeah.
Cool. And then jumping into technology. So the Loxatl do not craft machines in the way humans or even orcs do. Their weapons and gear appear almost organic in integration, mysterious, self-contained, and incompatible with Imperial systems. Chief among their armaments is the Flechette blaster, a devastating close-range weapon that launches swarms of armor-piercing darts with terrifying speed. This weapon is not simply carried, it is affixed, adapted, bonded. How it is powered or manufactured remains unknown. Imperial tech adepts have failed to reverse engineer its function before the weapon self-corroded or evaporated. So that's interesting, isn't it? The weapon just sort of disappears if it's not attached to the wearer, which gives it that kind of strange sense. Beyond weaponry, the Loxatl display access to advanced stealth technologies that defy standard auspex detection. Their chameleonic skin may be biological or the result of engineered mutation. Their gear rarely malfunctions. Their presence is rarely logged until it is far too late. The source of their technology, whether looted, traded, or developed in some nightmare crucible, remains a threat precisely because it does not follow no laws. It simply works and it kills. So that's really interesting, isn't it? That we don't know who manufactures their weapons and why they disappear. It all feels a bit chaosy, doesn't it? Like chaos is sort of a sort of bank funding these guys a little bit potentially.
Yeah. Chaos or Dark Eldar or
Yeah.
It all feels like chaos.
My sort of like, I have a very side interest in like economics. I've read a lot of economics books, and this just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, they don't have a civilization, they don't have a supply chain, they don't specialize in anything. Like, where the hell are they getting all this like weaponry technology? It doesn't make any sense. It makes sense.
Mark, or Jordan, it's an alien mind. You're not meant to comprehend it, okay? It means it's doing its job. It could be that is a form of payment that they do receive, is their weapons. Like, maybe someone stumbled across them, somehow found a way to communicate with them, let's say. And then, they're like, hey, these guys love fighting. Like, we've watched you maybe kill something else in combat, like as an observer. And they're like, what would make you more effective in combat is if we gave you these guns.
It's true.
And then you literally,
I guess if there's any evidence of that, like,
yeah, I'm way out on a limb here, but like, weapons are historically a good commodity for trade. And especially if you have a warlike species, they're like, oh yeah, this is gonna like make us that much more effective in combat. Absolutely. And you know what? We really like these guns.
Yeah.
We will pledge ourselves to your service if you give us all these guns. So
yeah, like they would have to rely entirely on the technology of other species, almost like the way that they're described here. It's like hard to imagine them being able to produce any of these things on their own.
I will get
I think.
Go ahead.
I think a little bit more about that tie between the Dark Eldar and them, and like why the Dark Eldar would care so much to equip them this heavily and create technology and all that. But like, we're reading a little bit about how they cause terror, and like even before they arrive, like the air just feels different. And the Dark Eldar are just now feeding off this type of psychic energy. So it could be a good tool for harvesting psychic energy.
Yeah,
true.
Is it confirmed that, and again, maybe we'll get into that discussion, Mike, you can tell me if that's later on, but if their weapons are foreign manufactured, or are they, like, is it a question that we don't know, or is it actually confirmed somewhere?
It's funny, people in the chat have been memeing. I'm Just trying to find it where they basically, oh, what about the homeworld? We don't know about the homeworld. Oh, what about this? We have no clue about this. And yeah, we don't know a lot about
Yeah.
these guys. Honestly, there's only like a paragraph of information. There's not that much on them, but they're just too cool. I had to include them.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying. So before I say what I was going to say next, it could be that they also manufacture their own weapons in a way that we just don't understand. I do like when alien species become so alien that it's hard for us to comprehend things. Just because they're quadrupeds doesn't mean they can't set up a way to, maybe they use their tails or use their front claws to manipulate technology and stuff in such a way to manufacture these weapons, or at least build the facilities that would manufacture the weapons, right? Either avenue, either they get it from someone else and they hire out because they do have very unique physiologies that would make them effective fighters even without guns. So either that route or
Yeah, like I could picture a random Imperial craft or any race really landing on this homeworld planet of theirs, and these guys have no technology, and they swarm that ship because there's so many of them. They take it and they take the hostages, and now they're like, okay, now you're making us weapons, like, or now we are gonna do this with your people, like, yeah,
there's any number of ways that
definitely.
could happen. So unless it's explicitly written, I just don't like to close off potential story arcs is all.
Yeah. We'll talk about their military. This is a little more clear because in 40K we always know how everything fights. We might not know who their lovers are.
They're great.
The Loxatl, the Loxatl fight not as individuals but as calculated organisms. Their tactics emphasize overwhelming ambushes, flank attacks, and disorienting speed. Rarely deployed in large numbers, even a handful can cripple a regiment if inserted correctly. They do not hold lines, they dissolve them. Whether assaulting through smoke-filled ruins or skittering through bulkheads of starships, their method is the same. Destabilize, isolate, eradicate. No glory, no prisoners, no sound. The integration into enemy forces, particularly Chaos Warbands, is seamless. They act as shock troops, assassins, and close quarters exterminators. Once unleashed, they do not require command or correction. Their scent-based communication allows flawless real-time coordination without vox or signal, an advantage that renders them nearly immune to conventional jamming or miscommunication. In the crucible of modern warfare, they are the scalpel, and the scalpel wielder both surgical, silent, and utterly without pity. Yeah, so just further into these like tiny groups of hunters, very powerful by the sounds of it. Like they can really mess up a disproportionate amount of numbers. I don't know if we mentioned how big they were on this episode yet, like how actual.
Yeah, I was wondering that. I don't think in the physical description we mentioned that.
Well, that's an oversight. I'll find how big they are here.
Oh, they're only the size of a small salamander. Suddenly they're not so scary.
Shit. They're definitely like the size of a man. I think they're even bigger. I'll see if I can find something else as we carry on.
All right, let's go to galactic relations. The Loxatl have no known alliances, no embassies, and no diplomats. They are universally distrusted, even by those who pay for their claws. To the Imperium, they are xenos, filth, abominations to be exterminated on sight. To the Tau, they are an anomaly, incompatible with the concept of the greater good. Even the forces of chaos, their presence is tolerated, but not welcomed. The Loxatl do not worship the dark gods. They accept currency, not corruption. They serve death, not demon. But that transactional neutrality is what makes them truly dangerous. The Loxatl can and do appear wherever bloodshed can be brokered. Today they kill for a heretic general. Tomorrow they could kill him. They are loyal only to their own survival, and even that loyal is tenuous. The galaxy is not their battleground, it is their hunting ground, and they move through it like poison, unaligned, but always armed.
Yeah, just hunters. They kind of just like violence.
Yeah, like I almost kind of I hate to appeal to this like animalistic side of them, but they just seem like predators. Like it's very intrinsic and instinctual to who they are, and that's just kind of what they want to do.
And that's
is
okay,
hunt.
Jordan. That's okay.
Yeah, I'm not saying different
We
strokes for
accept all
different
types of.
folks.
Yeah, they're pretty neat. I like that the tower like probably not gonna work out. Even though we like mercenaries, probably avoid those ones.
Makes sense.
Minis and representation, rules and stuff. As for minis, I was kind of scrolling just through when we're talking. I liked this cold one mount converted into one of them. Pretty neat. It's big. That's what I kind of like about it. There's a couple fun ones here. I think that would probably be the route I would go, though. That cold star dark elf kind of mount.
Yeah, I think they do lack a little bit of
as-
the crocodilian stance with the arms kind of out more. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's the closest you can get, I think, without major conversion work.
Yeah. There might be some online now 3D printed at this point. And since I feel like that you wouldn't need a whole bunch of them, like we're talking kill team scale, you could probably find a couple prints and use them, you know?
Yeah, 4 or 5 maybe. Yeah. I did see one converted cold one that was kind of more squat and like closer to the ground. Somewhere on the Google Images. Someone had it converted, but yeah. Or you could always get a real axolotl and slap it on a base and
slap super glue on it.
Yeah, there, that one. Yeah.
Get a taxidermied and
Yeah.
That's that looks like a regular lizardman that they converted into an axolotl or what do you call them?
Yeah.
Loxatl.
Yeah, I like the more squat, closer to the ground look for them because from like the official artwork, which does exist, they have more of that. They're like a mash of like an iguana and a bunch of other lizards, salamanders, but that arms out kind of stance is kind of more them.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, fun xenos. Include them in some RPGs, terrorize people with them. It'll be a good time. Just imagine one of these fucking things hunting you. And you know it's there, but you have no idea where.
Start blasting.
Every now and you just start blasting.
All right.
Before we get to the next little update here, the Liber Malleus, I just poked my head in there. We got Chaos is still up and almost doubled the next one in line. So, whoo! Let's start looking at Chaos Space Marines.
Add that to your to-do shopping list.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we have the Medusae. I've seen giant leeches, Taladar grave ticks, larger than your hand, and even that poxy head lice I picked up in the bilges, but I ain't never seen anything like that thing. Parading Lumcuando aboard the freighter Argentum. The Medusae are blasphemous amalgamations of the immaterium and flesh, parasites of pain and incarnations of psychic rot. They are not born, but coalesced, aggregating from psychic discharge of the warp itself, leeching off suffering like flies drawn to filth. In the depths of Cormorah, they are venerated and enslaved in equal measure. Prized by Dark Eldar not for companionship, but for the exquisite agony they unleash upon all nearby minds. To look upon a Medusae is to feel your own worst memories seared anew across your soul, played back with vivid and unrelenting detail. Neither truly demon nor beast, the Medusae stand as a bridge between realms, their presence a constant affront to both reality and reason. They serve the Dark Eldar not as equals, but as weapons, living instruments of mental disfigurement, silent and hovering, ever watchful. Their mouths do not open to speak, but they project cascades of emotion so intense they can shatter the psyche. They are both relic and herald of torment, proof that Cormorah's cruelty has seeped beyond the physical and into the screaming soul.
These things are so weird and so like we thought the last one were foreign. These guys are foreign. They're like warp jellyfish almost of emotion.
Yeah, they're super strange. So let's jump into the appearance and biology. So a Medusae is a thing malformed. Its central body bulbous and swollen like an overfed tumor, draped in oily robes that flutter as though submerged in invisible waters. The most grotesque feature is the cluster of 4 autonomous brains that orbit its head, each one trailing strands of psychic discharge like nerve-slick jellyfish tendrils. These brains twitch and pulse independently, reacting to nearby thoughts like predators scenting wounded prey. Beneath its shroud, its form is a tapestry of exposed nerves, vestigial limbs, and warp-spawn corruption. Its biology is more than a horror than a system, a mockery of anatomical sense. The Medusae does not digest food nor breathe. It draws sustenance from the pain and terror of others, consuming agony as nourishment. What passes through its eyes are cold, void, black apertures that see not shape but emotion, particularly fear. It is a creature that should not be held together not by muscle and bone, but by suffering itself. Even the Dark Eldar, who delight in agony, often mask their faces in Medusae's presence, lest their hidden regrets become screams. Yeah, they're really, really weird looking, but it's quite interesting the fact that they are still they still have like a humanoid shape. They still have 2 arms and 2 legs. It's sort of like in Star Trek, like every alien you meet in Star Trek has 2 legs and 2 arms. You know what I mean? And they're kind of following that same kind of structure. But yeah, they're very, very strange. And I'm not surprised them and Dark Elder are best mates because they have similar interests.
I think that
Similar interest.
that body is not the Medusae. The Medusae is the brain part at the top. That person is just an unfortunate soul that it's latched onto.
You can see on this picture here a
Oh.
little better of it actually like latching on to this person. It's a human underneath, and
Yeah, so that the arms and legs are an unfortunate soul that's damned to be its little
They're almost like the Gould in Stargate, if anyone's familiar with that.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Pretty
not a
neat
good
little
time,
thing.
is it? To have that attached to you.
to the back of your head.
Depends where, I think.
It's not
Let's
a
talk
party.
about their power.
That's it.
Let's talk about their powers and abilities. The Medusa mind shock ability is not merely a psychic blast, it is an emotional cataclysm. When unleashed, this torment of soul lacerating anguish breaks upon the minds of those nearby like a tidal wave of despair. It does not kill outright. Instead, it leaves minds fractured, screaming, or catonic, forcing victims to relive every sorrow, every failure, every moment of vulnerability with unbearable clarity. Entire squads of hardened warriors are drop their weapons and beg for their death rather than endure the assault again. What makes the Medusa truly abominable, however, is its presence is passive and relentless. Even when dormant, it radiates a psychic miasma, a low humming ache in the back of the skull, tightening in the chest, an inescapable sense of shame. This aura of torment lingers long after the creature is left, sometimes leaving entire rooms or corridors haunted by lingering mental impressions. To weaponize such a strategy, or to weaponize such a being, is not strategy. It is sadism perfected. Oh man, it's like when Christian leaves the room. It takes a while for it to get defunct. You're like, fucking. Yeah, they're not good creatures to be around. I wonder if like the Dark Eldar kind of like how much it's shitty to be around them. Like they themselves like it, the misery and the agony and like that darkness in the room. They just sit there and like listen to emo music.
Sorry, I was muted. All right, let's get into the history. The origins of the Medusae are murky, steeped in a warp-born contradiction and xenos apocrypha. Some whisper they are the spiritual runoff of races long perished, fragments of dead psykers, coalesced into new form. Others claim they are cast-offs from the Imperium itself, mind matter that failed to become demons. Wherever they hail from, it was the Dark Eldar who first imprisoned them, recognizing in their mind-searing powers a potential for exquisite suffering that rivaled even their most refined instruments. Over the centuries, the Medusae have been deployed in countless raids and soul harvests, brought forth like totems of psychological collapse. Their presence on the battlefield is more than disruptive. It is demoralizing on a primal level. Few survive encounters with them. Rumors persist of entire populations driven mad without a single wound inflicted. Just the echoing cries of a hovering, silent abomination that tore through the veil of memory and made them drown in themselves. So, pretty grim dark there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like how they make you
My best friend, the Medusa.
I like how they make you relive your like most horrible memories and feelings. Like the time you farted in class and everyone heard. I can just see like a hardened guardsman just drop to his knees having a flashback in
No.
high school, embarrassing himself in front of everyone.
I'm reliving the shit story all over again. Neighbor, no! No.
But it like seems like obviously the name ties back to Medusa, so it must be the sense that in the Medusa obviously myth that if you looked at Medusa you would turn to stone. So there must be a similar thing with this, but instead of turning to stone, you just have this psychotic attack or this psychotic moment, and just become completely ineffective
It
if you look
paralyzes
upon them.
it paralyzes your mind instead of your body, but
Mhm.
that's like what the tie is between them. But yeah, definitely aptly named.
Medusa is also apparently a type of well-known jellyfish.
Ew.
In real life as well. So,
well, look at Mark bringing his biological knowledge.
No,
So
I was
why-
just Googling
why
and you
pick
scroll
all
far enough
that?
and you find it. All roads lead to jellyfish ultimately.
That is true. Also, in the Medusa myth, it doesn't make people into stone. It makes me into stone, if you know what I'm saying. Anyway, sorry. I had to say it. All right. Let's get to Homeworld and
When I was a kid, I used to go on vacation with my parents to BC to the ocean, and the one spot we'd go was filled with jellyfish, and we used to always pick up the jellyfish and splat them on the concrete like savages. And now I live on an ocean above jellyfish, and when I'm done this episode, I'm gonna go splat one just and pretend it's one of these fucking things.
Just wait till they get their payback as psychic jellyfish infest your dreams tonight.
No, fuck.
All right, let's get into the homeworld and galactic geography. The Medusae do not hail from any single planet, for no world could gestate such things without dying in the process. Yet they are most commonly found, or more accurately, contained within the shadow-haunted spires of Commorragh, the Dark City, where pain itself has geography. There, in hanging cages or drifting through archways, like specters, the Medusae are both pet and prisoner, used by homunculi and archons alike to spread psychic contamination and monitor the emotional terrain of their domains. To speak of the Medusa's home is to misunderstand their nature. They are warp-born echoes, wandering fragments of the collective torment of the galaxy, drawn magnetically to places of immense psychic pain. In truth, the galaxy is their feeding ground, and Commorragh is merely where they are leashed. For now, should they ever multiply or break free, whole sectors might be drowned, not in fire and steel, but in memory, paralyzed by guilt and horror that was never theirs to begin with.
Fuck.
That's cool. That's almost like
that sucks when you're now feeling others.
It's like a jellyfish. Jellyfish too sometimes like have blooms where they just like overproduce, and there's just like thousands of them. Pretty terrifying if that happened in like space, and they're all just blasting horrific memories. It might not even be your memories; they're just implanting them in your mind, so you're also experiencing like the worst of the worst.
Yeah, that's a crazy. We've talked about some like minor xenos migration patterns and like what happens if Hrud pass past your go past your planet. And yeah, that's a crazy effect. But this is also wild for sure.
Yeah, and obviously we have the model version of them too, where they can attach themselves to a host and like get deployed onto the battlefield. Poor soul, I feel bad for them. They're like obviously chained up and just like a little plaything for the Medusa.
Oh,
Cool. So let's jump into the culture and beliefs. So to speak of Medusa and culture in the same breath is to violate the very notion of culture. These are not a people with songs, myths, or social rights. The Medusae do not worship, hope, or aspire. They resonate. Their existence is a constant chorus of absorbed agony, and if they believe in anything, it is the unrelenting saturation of emotional pain. They do not communicate with words, but with pressure, a seeping atmospheric despair that bleeds into the minds of all who drew near. If they possess memory, it is not personal, but collective, a stored record of the worst echoes in the galaxy's psychic strata. Their beliefs, if they can be so called, are etched into their very biology. They seek out misery not as predators, but as conduits, attracted to suffering like iron to a magnet. The Medusa do not appear to organize or congregate outside of captivity, suggesting either a complete lack of self-awareness or a deeper, unfathomable unity rooted in warp-based instinct. When clustered within Camorra, they remain silent and still, their psychic presence brooding like a storm cloud above the minds of nearby Archons. What rituals they enact are ones of sensation, feeding not on blood, but on regret and guilt, like sacred wine. I mean, just when you thought it couldn't get any worse in Camorra, right? You got these guys floating around, hanging about.
Yeah. I think Mark's frozen.
No, he got attacked by a Medusa, and now he can't move.
Oh, he's back.
it was awful. I hated every second of it. Oh. All
Yeah.
right. Up next is the technology. The Medusa do not craft, they do not build. Technology to them is not a tool, but a cage, or in the hands of the Dark Elder Masters, a leash. The implements they enact with are designed by others. Containment fields woven with psycho-reactive mesh, mind shields etched with wards of concealment, and torture helms that amplify their emissions. In many ways, the Medusa are living technology used like biological artifacts installed into raiding parties and dark shrines to serve as beacons of psychic disruption and anguish. Some twisted minds within the homunculi covens have adopted to upgrade Medusae, grafting them into devices that weaponize their aura for greater precision. These experiments often end with apparatus overload by emotional feedback, shattering in a pulse of raw torment. Still, the Pain Lords persist, refining the edge between machine and monster, bending the Medusa's ambient horror into tactical precision. They are not engineers, they are, in a human sense, they are tools refined by pain, wielded by the hands that view agony as the most honest form of truth. That's such a cool kind of concept where they just use them as these tools and technology, and they morph them together so seamlessly. It seems like, yeah. There's no Medusae lava lamps. It seems like it's all geared towards a specific function of torture.
I think they're sleeping on that though. I'd definitely buy a Medusa lava lamp.
All right, let's get into their military. The eyes open. The eyes open. Insanity dies. That's a quote from graffiti scrawled on the walls of the outpost KVII 95B. The Medusae are a terror made flesh on the battlefield, unnamed but never unarmed. They float at the flanks of Dark Eldar, raiding parties like executioners' omens, their mind shock blast lashing out in pulses of pure psychic torment. They have no aim, no tactics, no interests in the battlefield beyond the emotions it contains. Their power bypasses armor discipline. striking the will to fight rather than the body. Hardened soldiers have broken ranks, weeping, begging forgiveness from dead parents or long-lost comrades under the influence of a Medusae's aura. In combat, they are often escorted by bodyguards, not to protect the Medusae, but to ensure its energies are deployed with maximum cruelty. Archons deploy them with precision, sending them into the densest pockets of enemy resistance, where morale is most fragile. Once unleashed, their mental barrage can turn a regiment's cohesion into disarray in seconds. They are not strategists, but psychic contagions, spread intentionally, leaving broken minds and useless flesh in their wake. I mean, they almost are weapons in and of themselves, you know?
Yeah. Like, they have no use beyond destruction. So what else would they be? You know, they're not out there even like, well, sure, they're not building empires, but at least they leave nice forests behind in their wake. They recycle, you know. No, they just fucking destroy.
Hey, that's rude, Mark. I'm sure they see
Hey,
things
all
differently.
Xenos. Well, they can meet my boot later tonight after this episode. I'm coming for you, jellies.
Mark declares war on the jellyfish. It's not going to.
The third war I've lost down here, but it was a glorious war nonetheless.
You gotta stop.
Much better than my war against the monkeys.
Stop declaring war on nature, Mark. You're always going to lose that battle. All right. On that note, let's get into their galactic relations. The Medusae have no diplomacy. They are not a species one can speak with, let alone reason with. Across the galaxy, they are known only as a whisper, a shadow trailing behind dark Eldar forces, an unseen presence that haunts survivors long after the flesh wounds have healed. Imperial scholars who have studied battlefields touched by the Medusae report high incidences of suicide, emotional collapse, and psychic feedback in surviving astropaths and psychers. To most, they remain myth, their names spoken in hushed tones amidst discussions of the Comorite horrors. Among the Dark Eldar, however, the Medusae are coveted like rare venom. Archons treat them as a status symbol, living relics that enhance their lethality and reputation. Homunculi harvest them for experiments, dissecting their minds in the name of innovation through suffering. No other xeno race seeks alliance with the Medusae. Their nature is simply too abhorrent, too disruptive. Even demons have been observed to recoil from the presence, sensing something wrong, even by warp standards. They are not part of the galaxy. They are its echo chamber, its haunted mirror, always feeding.
Cool. Fuck. Yeah, like, what do you do with this kind of race beyond just exterminate? You're not making deals with them. There's no use to them. They're just nasty.
Yeah.
On tabletop?
I want to kill them, all of them.
Yes, Josh. We'll get there. Don't worry. Once we leave this forsaken planet, we can go crusade the stars together and rid it. On tabletop, they do have minis, like Christian said. In the Dark Eldar army, they have individual model. I have it pulled up on the screen here. You know, these are like, you know, we talk about scale. Is this tabletop? Is this kill team? This is tabletop, but it's small. Like, there should only be one of these guys ever, you know? It could be kill team, but it's small.
Yeah, they typically, I don't know if it's still the case, but they used to at least be like in the retinue of an Archon. So like you'd have one model on the battlefield.
Yeah. And then, you know, that Archon is like the highest rank, or one of the highest ranks in Cormorant. So like they're rare. You'd see them in big engagements when like, okay, I'm bringing out all my useful tools. Like, I got to win this one. I'm bringing out everything I got.
Yeah. I do wish they had a version, because it isn't clear on the model. Even with Gothic there, you know, like, is that a separate entity that it's attached to? Like, where does the Medusae stop and the other person start, right? It'd be cool if they had a version where it was just floating independently. And then, and you could easily do that just by cutting off this miniature's head and like scraping off its front face mask. But there are some other models too that
Sweet.
I would suggest. There's an octopus in the what are the underwater fantasy elves called? In
Deep elves?
yeah,
No,
it's like,
Deepkin.
yeah, whatever they are in the Sigmar range. There's a one dark elder, or not dark elder, whatever underwater elf that has like an octopus scribe or something. So that could also,
Oh
yeah, that one could be a good Medusae that's detached. Idenith Deepkin, yes, thank you, Jax in the chat. Yeah, the Idenith Deepkin has this octopus miniature. That would definitely. You'd also, I think he comes attached to the miniature he comes with, but you could cut him off. And definitely make a Medusae out of that. Also, my other favorite miniature store that should start paying me for the amount of shilling I do for them. Mantic Games has a fun horror RPG set of sci-fi minis. I forget what they're called off the top of my head. But they have this kind of, it's a lot bigger. It's probably too big to really be a Medusae, but it looks like a sci-fi octopus jellyfish type thing that's like
Cool.
horror based, which is it is a really cool miniature. I love it. I have it. I forget what it's called. I'm looking for it right now. I'll probably pull it up later if I find it. But yeah, definitely. Again, it might be a little bit big to represent a Medusae. It could be something in the same vein of any other octopi based xenos, but definitely an option.
I like Dope Japan Motorsports comment there. There's spore mines too, and that's probably really close to what we're looking for.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think of that, honestly.
Especially like the acid spore mine where it has kind of the vents poking out the side of it, like the little holes. Yeah, for sure.
You know, I would attach an adrenal gland to it to give it more of that brainy texture. But definitely that would be 100% my.
Yeah. Look at those nasties.
Delicious. I'm getting hungry for calamari for some reason. I don't know why. All these tentacles are doing it for me.
Cool.
It'd be interesting to see what would happen if the Tyranids went up against these guys. Like, because obviously the Tyranids wouldn't fear, they don't have a sense of
shame or guilt or
yeah, exactly. So what would happen? Would they just lose their power? Would they just not be possible? Or could they even attach themselves to a Tyranid? And that'd be a really cool model. But yeah, just wondering how that'd even work. What would happen if they come head to head?
Yeah, and you expand that into Necron as well, another race where you're like, okay, immortal robots probably not going to be scared, but
no.
You know, I think that's okay to have species that are kind of immune or the counter to others. I'm okay with them having no effect. That's kind of cool. It gives them a weakness. It might disrupt like the Tyranid synapse in whatever way, just a little bit, almost like having a bad internet connection rather than cutting out your internet totally. But yeah, I kind of like the idea that they're also just totally unaffected as well.
Yeah. Very cool. So that takes us to the next one. But before we do that, let me just pull up the chat there, or the voting. Okay, so this is the final little half-hour segment where you get to vote. And right now, crossing the Rubicon is at 15%. Staying firstborn is at 31%. And 54% of you want damnation. So I don't know what that says about the state of society, but that's where we're at, and I'm excited for it.
It just shifted, Mark.
There's still time to vote.
Someone's messing around.
They're fucking around.
But damnation is still in the lead.
Yeah. Very nice. Yeah, no, excited. So up next, we got the Megarachnids. We've talked about them recently quite a bit, and let's see what they're like.
Cool, let's do it. 2 words: Starship Troopers.
I was going to say.
So the Megarachnids are not merely a species, but an ancient horror, one of the lingering scars left by the unrecorded epochs of galactic prehistory. They do not speak, plead, or reason. They simply exist, and in that existence, they kill. Cloaked in myth and wrapped in the blood of trespassers, the Megarachnid once ruled a domain carved from the bones of invaders and the ruins of unknowable technologies. Their presence is not maintained by culture or creed, but by an instinctual, unrelenting imperative to defend and destroy. When mankind rediscovered their world, the Megarachnid did not rise to greet them. They rose to erase them. No records survive that hint of their origin. Some among the more heretical scholars whisper they are the remnants of a failed weapon system, or the last survivors of a galactic-wide war fought by dead civilizations, but none can confirm this. The Megarachnid seem to have no end goal beyond containment and extermination. They are predators woven into the very biosphere of their world, endlessly adapting to punish intrusion. To encounter them is to be measured, judged, and reduced to compost for their hive forests. Yeah, so they're very cool insect-like.
Yeah.
I feel like every science fiction property has to have its insectoid species, like Star Wars has the Geonosians, Ender's Game, like the Enderverse has like the buggers, and they're actually not too dissimilar from something like the Megarachnids or the arachnids, I think it is, in Starship Troopers. Whereas they got some similarities, but they're more like ant-like in the Enderverse. But yeah, there's the sort of insectoid thing is a common theme, which I mean, I don't blame people for using it.
I took a little flack for, I forget what minor xenos we were talking about, but I said it was a bug-like race, so it probably had like a hive mind. And somebody kind of brought up the point, well, not all bugs have hive minds. Like, yeah, okay, we can think of ants, and that's a very kind of clear. But
And
there's plenty
bees.
of and bees, exactly. But those are very specific, and not all bugs are hive-minded. So that was something I was considering a lot more when writing about these guys. But I think they are definitely leaning in that hive mind more so than some other bugs.
Yeah, which is also
even though they're arachnids, which aren't arachnids like more individualistic than most other.
Yeah,
I guess they're not an insect, but
the Zerg also, Jordan, from StarCraft, are a bug race, but they're also kind of reptilian, but also bug-like, and they also have the whole hive.
They're more.
They're also sexy ladylike.
One of them is. I'm talking about the Overlord. But I was gonna say they do tend to feature, like, again, that trope, right? Like if you have the bug race, they often do have a hive mind behind it, but that shouldn't always have to be the case, as you're saying.
Yeah. True.
Okay, we'll talk about their appearance in biology. Towering and chitinous, the Megarachnid defy conventional xenobiological classification. Each creature bristles with serrated limbs and redundant organs, their massive forms resembling a grotesque amalgam of insect and machine. They walk upon 4 or more bladed limbs, their other poised always for the kill. Barbed appendages dripped with paralytic toxins, and their armored hides reflect small arms fire like a rain off obsidian. No two Megarachnid are precisely alike. They seem to be tailored for different tasks. Sentinels, executioners, builders, each born fully ready to fulfill its role for the swarm. Within their bodies hum ancient cybernetic cores lost to any rational science. These cores whisper to one another across electromagnetic spectrums, forming a hive logic that renders them unified and implaceable. Their exoskeletons plated with hyperdense material seem grown rather than forged. Some theories claim that Megarachnid were once fully artificial, later infused with organic biomass to perpetuate themselves. But whatever their genus, they are now a self-sustaining nightmare, evolving in silence to better extinguish the light of intruders. I read this one cool theory on Reddit, and you don't put any stock into this theory, except it was very cool. And basically, the Megarachnid were a bio creature that the Interrex made, and then it went awry, and then they had to lock it on that planet.
On murder.
Yeah, on murder. So, there's a couple little hints or whatever. The guy did a great job of kind of describing that, like, oh, it really sounds like these were created by something more so than just naturally evolved. And yeah, you had this whole plot line. So I kind of like that about them. It's kind of neat.
And and
Interesting.
and also, don't the Interrex walk around on like weird little kind of like spider leg things, don't they? They're like half. Um,
Oh,
they ride around on these little
interesting.
spider things. So there's like some similarity between these insects and also how they actually move around the Interrex, from what I can remember. But don't quote me on that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I kind of recall, like it's been so long since I read those, but I definitely recall the Interrex like being kind of genetically modifying with the kind britch and stuff. Yeah. Fun theory.
Yeah. I think the Interrex were like an offshoot of humanity, but I don't know if maybe they were more mechanical. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually. Yeah, because I think when they first, when the Imperium first, well, they reconnected with them, they thought that they had like, they were like kind of those half horse, half people. What's it called? The
Centaurs.
yes, yeah, like sort of like centaurs, but actually they weren't. They were just had these attachments, like these mechanical attachments they walked around with, these kind of legs and stuff. It's quite cool.
All right, let's get into the powers and abilities. The Megarachnid operate not with strategy as humans know it, but with something older and more terrifying: instinct, sharpened by aeons of warfare. They ambush with the precision of surgeons, tearing apart Astartes in their prime with crushing blows and acidic bites. Their limbs can pierce ceramite, and their strength rivals that of battle tanks. Even in death, their bodies are a hazard, releasing spores or explosive fluids to maim or poison their slayers. Perhaps most terrifying is their ability to terraform. Megarachnids do not merely inhabit worlds, they consume and reshape them. Their forests are artificial ecosystems, grown from the carcasses of their enemies, seeded with black towers that emit waves of signal noise and psychic disruption. These structures, once misidentified as mere architecture, serve both as weapons and as anchor points for their telepathic gestalt. To stand upon their world is to breathe their will, to move within a cage of their making. Yeah, so don't kill them, just run.
Great advice.
I like my option of just bombing them from orbit. Why
Yeah,
go
do that,
why go
yeah.
melee when you can just nuke them from above?
Because of honor and glory,
Yes,
Christian.
that's what the
What you want to
Emperor's
be called
children and blood
coward?
angels learned repeatedly.
Mm.
All right, let's get into their history. Once the Megarachnid ruled a network of worlds, a web of silence stretching across the stars. None know who first gave them empire, or whether they built it themselves. By the time the Imperium arrived, only one world remained, and on that world, the Megarachnid waited. It was not a civilization in decline, but a trap laid long ago. The Luna Wolves bled to learn this truth, hundreds of their number falling to the species, thought extinguished by time. Their war against the Imperium, misnamed the Compliance of Murder, was not one of conquest or negotiation, but of fury and extermination. Only after a tide of blood was loosed did the truth emerge. The Megarachnid were jailed, not conquerors. They had been locked away another darker race that in the depths of their planet, and in their zeal, the Imperium had broken the chains. What followed was not a victory, but the unraveling of secrets never meant to be touched. Yeah. I believe it was it the Blood Angels that encountered them first, and they kind of like disappeared on the planet. And then the Emperor's children like got a distress signal and showed up, and then they dropped down and they're like getting destroyed. But as Mark said, kind of like they felt duty bound and honor bound to just keep doing what they were doing, even though they wasn't getting them any results. And then finally Horus shows up with his Luna Wolves, and they rescued the beleaguered survivors of the Emperor's children. So yeah.
And they left the planet.
Yeah.
Rescued and left, which is super crazy to think about that, like, just this one planet with these spiders stopped 2 legions.
Yeah. Now, granted, it wasn't the full legion strength of the Emperor's children or the Blood Angels.
Sure.
It wasn't a full legion complement, but they did much more damage than they ever had a right to for such a small, insignificant species. Which is why they were obviously imprisoned on that planet that they were. Yeah, they were definitely a menace. If they had been a bigger galactic threat. Go on.
Yeah, they're kind of also the reason that the Imperium kind of had a bad view, or I guess Horus had a bad view. Well, maybe not Horus. I'm trying to remember. Just a lot of Space Marines did not like the Interrex because they allowed the filthy xenos Megarachnids to live.
Which is fair.
The point.
Fair take.
And on that note, we jump into the Interrex. So the Interrex, those doomed and noble remnants of another path humanity might have taken, had known of the Megarachnid. Where the Imperium saw monsters, the Interrex saw purpose. The Megarachnid had been set to guard a sealed threat, and have evolved, or been forged, to keep it imprisoned. The Interrex, scholars and warriors both, believed the species sacred in their task, a warning made flesh. They had come to respect the role the Megarachnid played, even if they could never, ever understand them. Yet even the Interrex feared what the Megarachnid protected. When they learned of the Imperium's intervention, of the Luna Wolf slaughter and the awakening that followed, their disdain was cold and total. The Interrex, the Megarachnids, were not enemies. They were misunderstood sentinels. Their extinction, precipitated by Imperial ignorance and pride, was not a triumph. It was a tragedy. One more thread snapped in the great tapestry of the galaxy's forgotten wisdom. What were the Megarachnids guarding? Sorry, I can't remember.
I kind of got the vibe, and same with that conspiracy I was talking about, that they were made to guard the Interrex. Like, they put them on an outside planet so that if Orks come into the system, they have to battle them first. You know?
Because I was getting the feeling that they were guarding something on the planet.
Yeah, and maybe that's it too. I read it so long ago, and like, honestly, the Megarachnids are only from one book from the first like quarter of it. You know, there's not that much on them, but
yeah,
I like that kind of like they're like the sentry tower. You know, they warn the rest of the Interrex, and yeah, fight the wars for them.
I would argue that undercuts the rationale of the Interrex. So, like, the whole purpose of why this even happens, and like for story reasons, is to give Horus an insight into a human species that doesn't annihilate its enemies. So, like, what we find out in the book is that the Interrex imprison the Megarachnids on Murder, the planet, because they were such like a horrible threat, and they had just come out of a war against them. So they stripped them of all their interstellar capabilities. They imprison them on this planet and kind of keep it like a wildlife preserve, where they can't hurt other species and they can just still live and not have to be exterminated. And that kind of like is what gives Horus pause, because the Imperium's policy is just to annihilate every species they encounter. They're all threats. So to be like confronted with an alternative of like, hey, you don't have to kill everyone, just kind of neutering them just enough that they're no longer a threat is good enough. And now they can just live their lives unmolested on this world. So, like, that was
we don't have to kill everyone, okay?
Yeah, and that was,
I know it's a shocking revelation.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And that was the whole purpose of them in this story, was to give Horus that, like, and the whole thing of the Interrex too is like, okay, humanity can theoretically go down a different path with the Xenos instead of this Great Crusade that's meant to exterminate everyone. So in the light of the purpose of the story, I think it kind of reduces the Interex's rationale for imprisoning them, to serve them more than just like a pet guard dog. Although certainly that could be an additional benefit. I think mostly it's to show that the Interex were compassionate even to these monsters by giving them an alternative to extermination.
And did murder have any kind of like any significance in terms of as a planet? Because I thought this would be a perfect candidate for like a virus bombing.
Yeah, like I
Do you know what I
recall
mean?
it
Like,
being
why not just
described
virus
as
bomb?
like a deadly desert world with like sandstorms that'll rip your flesh off. That might have just been a very specific spot on the planet, but yeah, I remember it not being a planet where you want to keep.
Yeah, so why not just nuke it from orbit? It's the only way to be sure, right? Just do that.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
just
well,
virus bomb it.
you can go argue with the Emperor's children. Let's to stop drop potting their guys into the forest where they disappear.
It's the same in Starship Troopers, though, isn't it? When they send like just loads and loads of soldiers down to fight these Megarachnid. Why not just send tanks or just nuke it from orbit? You know, it's the same thing. Like,
Come on.
I will counter with, and this might not apply necessarily to the planet murder, as you were just saying, that is a planet even worth fighting over. In the Imperium's case, yeah, you don't want to virus bomb every planet every time you have a little bit of resistance, because you do want to conquer that planet and use it for your own purposes eventually. So if you just go scorched earth, you also lose the benefit of that world. Starship Troopers movies versus the books. In the books, they have like really advanced power armor and like nuclear capabilities, like infantry level nuclear capabilities. So that's a whole other bag of worms I don't want to dive into, but it's worth diving into at some point. It's not right now. But yeah, they don't have the mass infantry tactics of the movie.
So a little more on the homeworld and galactic geography of the Megarachnids. Their homeworld was known to the Imperium simply as Murder. A fitting title, if accidental, a planet of black jungles, crimson fogs, and towering chitin spires. It was a place drenched in hostility. The very soil seemed to bleed, and the air carried spores that whispered madness into unguarded minds. Storms of static energy swept the atmosphere, shielding it from detection. Few worlds in the galaxy were so clearly crafted for war, none with such cruelly deliberate artistry. Located in the 63rd Expeditionary Fleet's path of conquest, the world of Murder stood isolated, protected by stellar anomalies and sensory scrambling clouds. But the planet was more than just a battlefield, it was a lock. The Megarachnid's tower were not homes, but keystones. Each one maintained a prison beneath the crust, holding ancient forgotten enemies. Where the towers fell, the prison weakened. Murder was not their domain by choice, it was their duty. And duty ended not by war, but by Imperial arrogance. This was another kind of interesting theory I came across on the old Reddit, was their guardian bugs. And what do you do with prisoners? I guess you send them to the planet Murder to have spiders look after them. Yeah. Aliens have their own way of justice system, so that's fun.
Yeah, eat you.
Yeah. That way they can keep their hands clean. We didn't execute you. Nature executed you.
Oh.
How compassionate.
Nurgle would approve.
All right.
And we'll jump to the culture and beliefs of the Megarachnids. I'm sure it's just highly detailed, and we're going to learn so much. I might even join the cult at the end of this. Let's see where it takes us.
Cool. Okay, perfect. So the culture and beliefs. So to speak of culture among the Megarachnid is to court madness, for they do not build, sing, or remember in any way that mortal minds can grasp. What passes for their belief system is encoded into action, a single unyielding directive to maintain the sanctity of their prison world. They neither retreat nor hesitate. They do not mourn their dead or celebrate their victories. Their existence is defined by containment and annihilation, executed with such inhuman precision that it borders on liturgical. Each ambush is a rite, each spire maintained as an oath renewed. Their towers, those towering bone metal monoliths, arrayed in arcane geometry across murder, may serve as the closest approximation of faith. They are not shelters, but instruments. Devices of stasis and suppression, pulsing with telemetry older than the Imperium itself. The Megarachnid circle them, maintain them, die around them. To destroy one is to provoke a storm of retribution, not of rage, but of blasphemy punished. Whether they know what lies beneath murder or simply obey ancient coding is unknowable. But to know them, defense is not a choice, it is a doctrine. Now, these are those really cool sort of like tree things, aren't they, that they talk about that are on the planet. And there's a really cool bit in the book where they talk about this, that a group of the first blood angels that land on the planet, they get that radio message saying about, oh, this is murder, and then they don't hear back from them, and then they send down some more space marines, and they find all these space marines like impaled in this tree, and they're all like there. And it's like it's a proper like really cool image, and it's like it's just almost like that scene from 300. They discover that town and all the townspeople are in the tree. It's like it's very like horror, sci-fi kind of vibe, and it's very cinematic, and it's it's prime sci-fi horror territory
for sure. Yeah, we don't know a lot about them, but we know if you fuck with their hive tree things, they get really upset, and they're just trying to make beautiful homes, decorating it with Space Marine helmets and stuff, and yeah, don't mess with it. We'll talk about their technology next. The technology of the Megarachnid is not understood. It is survived. Their architecture defies the principle of physics as Imperial scholars know them, and their devices operate without visible energy sources or command structures. The black towers that scar Murder's surface emit signals strong enough to disrupt Vox transmissions and dram orbital sensors. These spires extend deep into the crust, forming part of the vast substructure that hums with heatless power and tie-worn force fields. Whatever their purpose, they were never meant to be decoded by human minds. Even individual Megarachnid are techno-organic nightmares. Cybernetic cores embedded in their thoraxes radiate unknown frequencies, allowing them to communicate in silence and coordinated with eerie unity. These cores are not implants. They are gross, fossilized and fused over time. The weapons are part of them. Acidic mandibles, vibrating limbs, and hidden glands that exude mist and paralysis. Their biotechnology is not wielded, but incarnate. It is no off switch, no maintenance crews. It simply functions endlessly in service to an ancient, extinguished mandate. Yeah, pretty cool. We just really don't know what these towers are. We kind of see in the books that when they get destroyed, that fog, that electrical haze loosens up a bit, but like how they're generating that, how do we know? I don't know.
Yeah,
it just happens.
This is the thing, like is this what they're guarding? I don't think it's ever revealed, but obviously that's like there's something under the surface that these were connected to, that are quite powerful. So yeah, it's quite interesting.
Yeah, and like that really is their only technology. They're not running around with guns and stuff. They aren't even using technology that other xenos have built, like the Loxatl might be doing. Like they're just vomiting these structures of electro frequency or something.
All right, let's get into their military, how they like to kill all the haters and the losers. The Megarachnid do not field armies. They are the army. Their military exists as a distributed swarm intelligence, directing waves of death with neither confusion nor delay. Each creature is a unit of destruction, climbing walls, leaping from shadow to strike with lethal speed. Never needing orders against even the finest warriors of the Imperium, they fought with a cold, implacable fury. Astartes were torn from their armor and dragged into the roots of the jungle. Their final screams drowned in static. No tactical retreat, no fear, no quarter, only execution. Some of their forms appear specialized. Massive siege beasts that burrow from beneath aerial variants with wings of vibrating blades, scouts that move faster than the eye can follow. But they do not deploy these with strategy as man would understand it. Instead, the Megarachnid react with a kind of grim inevitability, an escalation that mimics war but is truly something older. Their planet is both a battleground and weapon. Their lives are ammunition. They do not win battles, they end incursions.
Yeah, just weapons. No, once again, another no good xenos that has no use to the Imperium, no use to the galaxy. They just are gonna wreck it. This is why we can't have nice things.
You don't want a little pet Megarachnid, Mark? Come on.
Well, how little?
Maybe just a baby.
Okay, no, I'm in. I'd raise one of those until I declare war on it and its species.
That and the jellyfish. Mark, you can only declare so many wars, my guy.
No, they're not tokens. They're not limited. I can do it as much as I want.
Okay. The war against the insects is next. That's going to go well, I'm sure. I'm just thinking I want to start a political movement called the Megas, and we'll have red hats that say "Make murder great again." And I'm talking about the planet murder, not the act of murder.
Listen, it's gonna be great. We're gonna murder a lot of people. Everyone agrees it's gonna be fantastic.
They're going to build a giant vomit wall.
They're gonna build a vomit wall.
Keep out the space marines.
Blood angels pay for it.
The space marines that keep crossing into our planet illegally. Okay. Anyways, moving on. Let's get into galactic relations. To speak of the Megarachnid, diplomacy is to misunderstand their essence. They neither speak nor parley. Their only relation to the wider galaxy is in rejection. When the Imperium arrived, the Megarachnid did not rise in defense of territory. They rose in repulsion. Every foreign presence is met with the same brutal finality: attack, destroy, bury. Their reaction to the Luna Wolves was not one of hostility, it was one of purification. Their home had been polluted, and they acted as a cleansing fire. Only the Interrex perceived the truth hidden beneath the carnage. Where the Imperium saw monsters, the Interrex saw custodians, jailers bound to ancient obligations. The Megarachnid were not seeking power, influence, or expansion. They were enacting an ancient gaze, one written not in language but in purpose. The galaxy passed them by, and they let it, so long as it did not come too close. And when it did, the Megarachnid responded not with war, but with extinction. So, yeah, again, just speaking to that, they just repel everything that lands on their planet. There's no real negotiation or diplomacy with them.
Yeah, just straight to business.
Yeah, which again speaks to the Interrex, who are all about kind of like finding, very Star Trek-y and like, oh, we can unite all people, and if you just speak to their reason and rationality, but there is no reasoning with these creatures. But also, they don't go as far as the Imperium that labels everyone as monsters and just goes to the extermination button. They tried to find that middle path, right? So,
yeah. Cool. Yeah, well, that was all we had for the Megarachnid. The one section I forgot to write about, but we can just discuss real quick, is their current status. As we kind of mentioned, they weren't necessarily destroyed. All those chapters, they left the planet and left the Megarachnids there. So 10,000 years is a long time, and a lot of things could happen over that. And maybe they get off that planet and have started a little empire. Would you guys like to see more of these guys, or do we kind of have enough of this with Tyranids? We got enough bugs.
Yeah, I'm definitely in the camp of enough bugs. Who's to say that the Imperium didn't come back and finish them off in that time span either? Especially after, the whole reason the Imperium stopped their campaign against them is because they got distracted by the Interrex and went off on that whole side tangent that eventually devolved into a little event called the Horus Heresy. So that kind of off-tracked them, but yeah.
I mean, when I read that book, I was wondering a little bit why they even created that as a species. Like, you already have the Tyranids. Like, why make the Megarachnids? It almost seemed a little redundant. But
Yeah, I even remember reading the books when they first came out, and when I first started reading, I'm like, oh, "Whoa, what? Tyranids are in 30K? Like, what? Why are Tyranids here?"
yeah.
But
yeah, like I don't know, just I don't know. Maybe they needed it for the story, I guess. But I will say the Megarachnids, if they do ever get off, it seems like they populate very quickly. So like they could hypothetically become like a scourge on the galaxy if they were ever able to get out.
Yeah, they're certainly a threat. And again, I think the Interrex were pretty efficient in how they chose what planet to imprison them on. So I don't know that, without a flood type situation where there's an accidental containment breach that allowed them to escape, and barring the Imperium coming back and finishing the job in the last 10,000 years, which is plenty of time to do that, by the way, and to do it
long
to do it with
time.
virus bombs too. The other thing is there's even another, again, hive mind bug. Like these ones are more like pill bugs that appear in the Beast Arises series too. I forget what they call those things.
Was it the Chrome?
Yeah, the Chrome. And same idea, right? Like, do we need another one? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bugs just seem like a good evolution, so whatever.
Yeah.
All right. Well, any thoughts on these last on any of these three? What's your guys' favorite?
Which one would you rather not be stuck in a
Encounter.
lift with?
Yes, you're in the old elevator and these three walk into it. Who do you hope gets off first? Yeah. Okay.
I hope they just
Then
kill
what's
each other.
worse?
Leave me alone.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I'd like the Medusa very much. It's just remaking me like read early Lorehammer episodes. I'm just stuttering over every word, just like fuck, I hate myself. Yeah, that would probably be the vibe.
Wow,
yeah,
we really went deep there for a sec.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Medusa would definitely bum you out, wouldn't it? Like for sure, it'd definitely make you a bit.
Yeah.
It wouldn't necessarily
Cute pet, but fucking bummer.
It wouldn't necessarily kill you though, so I think you have the best chance of survival with the Medusae or the Loxatl. Maybe the Loxatl just doesn't care about you and leaves you alone. Maybe, probably not, but there's a small chance. The Megarachnid is probably just gonna wreck you no matter what.
Yeah.
Or if you threw like a bone out of the door, maybe the Loxatl will run after it or something, you know.
Little dog.
Yeah.
My favorite is the Loxatl. I love axolotl in real life. I totally want to get one as a pet one day. So the Loxatl are definitely near and dear to my heart.
Near and dear, and you're gonna strap on a little gun to it.
That's gonna get dangerous real
little
fast.
underbelly gun. Yeah.
And I do like the whole pirate / mercenary component. I love that trope. It is tropey, just like the bug things are tropey, but I do like that trope. But I also like the Medusae and how alien they are. I like it. I appreciate when aliens are actually more alien and outside of our typical comprehension.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be my pick, is probably the Medusae. Almost exactly for the reasons you just said. And, who doesn't like some parasite burrowing into your lizard brain,
Who doesn't like it? Nice.
I will say broadly, Mark, just even beyond these xenos, but like a good majority of the xenos races, you really get an idea. You mentioned this really early on in one of the first episodes on xenos a few weeks ago about how, like, yeah, the Imperium's policy is like shoot on sight for a good majority of these, because look at what they are and look at what they do. Like, there's no negotiating with half of these species. There's a very, and it's I think it's almost realistic in the sense of like it's very laws of nature, right? Like all these species are just fighting in a hostile galaxy for survival. They all have different approaches to it. A lot of them are predatory, but like if I dropped you in the middle of the jungle, like that is the reality that, well, you live in the jungle now and you're constantly fighting the jellyfish and the monkeys, so but yeah, like survival is a struggle. Like the insect world.
Lost a lot of good men down
Yeah.
here, I'll have you know.
But yeah, like nature is a struggle. Existing in nature is very rarely that like idyllic and peaceful thing. It's like society is cut from a very savage reality, and protected by like this apparatus we call civilization. But nature is very cruel, and I think the 40K galaxy reflects that in all these different xenos.
Yeah. All right, well, we got some call-ins here. We'll get through them real quick. Let's get little Jax to the stage. Hey, Jax, happy birthday. You're finally 18 and an adult. How does it feel?
Not so little anymore.
Is that a cock joke? Oh, we could do that because you're 18 now. So it's fine and legal. Lorehammer Legal said it's fine.
I'd still rather not if we have the choice, though.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense too. But hey, so how do you feel about the minor xenos? Any of one of these you kind of latch on to, or
they latch onto you?
Well, I can't affiliate myself with them anymore because I'm not a minor.
Jeez.
But I gotta say, I really like the Xenos in 40K. I wish there were just more of them, more lore.
Yeah, it is crazy how many they do have, but you know, so many of them don't have enough information. Like they probably have close to 100 different ones, but lots have been dealt with by the Imperium.
Yeah, I mean, which kind of makes sense narratively. Like, you can't have the Imperium be like, "Oh, we're super like nice and friendly," like Star Trek. Like, we're also kind, and you can't have them either. Like, we're real pushovers. You gotta have them being like, "There's 50 billion Xenos in the galaxy."
And they all hate
Keyword,
That's 50 billion
there
too
was
many.
50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's get that number down. Keep the numbers down, you know? Yeah, so you're stuck in the elevator with one of these. Which one are you going for?
I don't know. Maybe that's actually one is gonna eat you. The other is might not eat you. The other one is gonna stick you on a pole. So maybe the Megarachnid, I mean.
All right, well, that's
I
a
feel
good
like
pick.
the Megarachnid would be the quickest, cleanest death, and so the other ones would be a lot more slower and painful.
Yes. Cool. All right, well, any other quick thoughts, or we'll jump to the next person here?
I really like the Minor Xenos. Can't wait for Conrad Curtis coming up.
Ooh,
with
yeah,
the Night
next
Lords.
week, man. Yeah.
Should have saved it for
Yeah.
your birthday episode. That would have been a kicker.
Yeah, so close.
Yeah.
Oh well, I guess we won't ever see you again. That's that. And he's gone
Forever
from our lives. But, yeah. Nemo Forever, let's call you to the stage. I'll give you a second here to get ready.
Ooh, put some pants on.
Born ready.
Born ready. What's good? Did you like these Xenos?
Yeah, I gotta say, it's not every day you find Xenos that I'll take 40K fans and put them on a poll. Like, how can you possibly resist that opportunity?
Yes, of course. Yeah. I like how creative some of them can be. Going through this episode, there's almost a theme of Xenos working with the Dark Eldar. A little bit of that theme, but not fully.
But you know, in that vein, if there was ever any Xenos faction that isn't the Skelly Boys that have a talent for getting other Xenos to work with them, I think it's the Dark Eldar, hands down. Because the Dark Eldar have that marketplace of anything you could possibly want in a way that's uniquely other Xenos friendly, that not a lot of other factions can compete with.
Yeah, even the Tau Empire, they don't have that same level of maybe not equality, but like equal opportunity at least.
Oh, let's be real.
In Komara,
the Tau won't sell you drugs or slaves or piracy or violence or unsavory materials, but the Dark Eldar will.
Fuck Guvesta.
Like,
they're not the real.
Yes, they will.
Yeah.
Like the Tau will try to color inside of like the lines of morality, but you turn up at Kamara. What is morality?
Yeah. Oh.
That gives me a thought though. Maybe Cormorant and the Dark Eldar are the Star Trek Federation of 40k.
Maybe the real Federation
That
are the slaves we made along the way.
There you go. I love it.
maybe, just maybe. Any other thoughts there, Nebo? We got one other call in.
Well, you got these really big spiders, and one of the few that could make Lupercal's finest stop in their tracks. I mean, it's hard to argue with someone that stomps even on Space Marines.
Yeah, would you like to see models for them somehow, or like anything like that?
No, not really, because we already had incredibly once upon a time cancerous railgun meta. I do not want to give anyone a faction that can send some of the best Astartes at 30k had to offer running for the hills, just given models. No, thank you. I don't even play tabletop all that
Sure.
much, and I don't want to see it.
Yeah, the rules for the Megarachnids can be Imperial Knights, I think. Perfect.
Oh yeah, then you get Titanicus Megarachnids.
I love it. Cool. Well, thanks for calling in. We got one other thing we got to get to here. Thanks, Nemo. Okay. So the last call in here, we'll get Grim on. Hey, Grim, what's good?
How's it going, fellas?
No.
Good. We have an update on the Liber Malleus. The votes are in. Are you ready to find out, Grim?
You still have 74 minutes left, but we're sitting at 2 for the Rubicon, 5 for Penitent Crusade, and 7 for the Rebellion.
And then on Instagram, I made a post where it had 4 for the Rubicon, 10 for the Firstborn, and 8 for the Damnation. So ultimately, I think that means Damnation won with a total of fucking
Math here.
15 votes there. Yeah, 15 votes to the next one would have had
I think
15
12.
is 12, okay. 14. That's what I'm counting.
Oh. Math, words.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Well, you know what though? We know the path of the chapter now. We have chosen to walk damnation together, all of us. I have a little blurb written here. When given the choice between crossing the Rubicon Primaris or embarking on a penitent crusade, the Liber Malleus defied both, choosing instead a third path, rebellion. Declaring the Imperium corrupt and shackled by hypocrisy, they turned their backs on the Emperor and fled into the Maelstrom. Pursued relentlessly by Ultramarines, the battle was brutal. 90% of the chapter was destroyed in their escape. For decades, the Liber Malleus was thought lost, swallowed by the warp. But within that madness, they did not fall to chaos. Instead, they chose a path of their own making. Casting off all masters, gods, and oath, they became the unbound warriors, loyal to nothing more than their own code. Guard, few in number, and clad in ancient Terminator plate, they emerged changed, hardened, and driven by a vow of vengeance against those who would seek to chain them again. So that is what has happened to our sweet Liber Malleus. They are no longer sweet, and they have dipped their toes into the maelstrom and come out the other end.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
As soon as you had given that third option for Rebellion, Damnation, it wasn't even a thought. Like, I was humming and hawing. Like, do we just stay Firstborn, do a Penitent Crusade? 100%, I voted for Rebellion, Damnation.
We need a little heresy in our lives.
Well, I mean, like, the first Liber Malleus, you guys were loyalists. Not saying that the second kind of version of the chapter isn't entirely loyalist, but like, you gotta have a little bit of both flavors, right?
Yeah. No, I'm super excited actually that that's how this turned out. I was all hyped on the new Terminator models for the Space Marines, but this Chaos Space Marines got new Terminator models as well. So basically my concept now is the chapter 90% has been eliminated, and all that remains are wearing Terminator armor, and they're the veterans, and they're these elite super clad warriors. So going forward, I have one episode that's going to be coming out after this that's going to tell you how you can get involved. Buy a Terminator off me, different war gear options. We'll talk about the chapter layout, the command structure, all those kind of things in the next kind of bonus episode that we release. But yeah, man, going to be crazy to go down the path of chaos. Christian, you survived another day. How do you do it?
I don't know. It's a gift. I beg for death every day,
Or a curse.
and it just doesn't happen.
Yeah. This leads some interesting options, like would Marcus Secor, the chapter master, have been killed off in this, or how many people fell? Did we all choose chaos together? Who survived? We'll find out. I'm excited for that.
So I do have a question in regards with the buy off here. If I'm not mistaken, there is no apothecary, at least represented on tabletop. There's no apothecaries for chaos. So how are you going to kind of spin that into place?
Well, thankfully, since we come from that loyalist starting point and it's relatively recent, yeah, we can still make all those specialist chapter or specialist roles and stuff, and they just kind of transfer over. I had this chaos idea literally today before this episode. So I hadn't even written out like what this is actually going to look like in terms of now organization. Yeah, there's going to be a chaos warlord, but then do we have sorcerers? Do we have warp smiths? Like, what are all these different little masters of execution? Do we have all these roles in here? We'll lay that out now as in the future going forward.
So what if Marcus becomes a demon prince of Malal?
Well, yeah, that would be fun. I want to go the Unbound option for sure. Tie these guys towards Chaos Unbound more than Undivided.
So you're really trying to become Bellicor then, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, they're closer to Bellicor than, yeah.
I like it. No, I really like it.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Yeah, you've already messaged me. A bunch of people have saying, count me in. And I say, patient, my friend. I'm trying to write up spreadsheets and keep things organized. But basically, I think at this point, if you've heard this, you can shoot me a message on Facebook, Instagram, Discord, wherever you can get a hold of me, and you can put an order in for a Terminator. I still got to work out how we're going to do all the specialist stuff, but you can order a Terminator. So reach out to me. The price point's probably going to be around $50, just because by the time I buy a model, bases, nameplates, paint, all the kind of accessories, shoulder pads for the Liber Malleus, it will cost a couple bucks, but it's going to be sweet. Can't wait to do it with you guys.
I love it. Honestly, I missed out on the first 2 rounds of Liber Malleus, and as soon as you mentioned bringing it back, I was like, well, fucking shut up and take my fucking money.
Yeah, son of a bitch, I'm in. I love it.
Yep.
Cool. Well, Grim, thanks for calling in.
One quick last note.
Yeah,
Jordan,
of course.
What the fuck is going on? There's no whiskey tonight or what?
No, sorry, but I actually had some beer earlier, so I was like, I can't. I got completely sloshed for tonight.
It's worth it. It's worth it. But lastly, anyone who's listening who already hasn't joined the Imperial Tithe, get on that stuff. It's a riot. Like, you can join in.
It's a riot.
Yeah, it's a riot in a good way. Like, community is great, very very friendly people, and you get to be on the panel with these guys here.
Yeah, make important decisions for the Liber Malleus, stuff like that. Yeah. All right, Grim. Thanks and adios. All right, and then there were 4, and we get to the end of the episode. Next episode, I think we're taking a step away from Minor Xenos, and we're doing the Night Lords and Conrad Kurz, and then jumping back to Xenos for a while. So going to be fun. Lots of Lorehammer to come. If you like listening to me read lore, come check out the Lorehammer Listener Lore podcast. I read your homebrew lore. You can email it in.
And if you want to hear about other insectoid alien races, you can always check out the Star Wars universe, where they have an abundance of those bad boys. Jordan and I are on the Star Lores podcast. You can come listen to us there. Just released a fantastic Star Wars music episode, which we are we poured our heart and souls into that one. So definitely go, if you haven't checked out the show, check out that one at the very least. It just came out last week.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds fun.
Cool. And then also come follow Gothic Garnish. So we're like averaging over 1 million views a month at the moment, which is great. And it's a really thriving community. So you can follow Gothic Garnish on TikTok, Instagram, and now on YouTube as well. So we've branched down to there. So love you to come and join. We've just covered the Harlequins. We've just done an exploration of the Plague Planet. And then we've also done a video of Inuit as well, which is super cool. So come join us and come check out our videos. It's growing all the time. So yeah, come join or just throw insults at me for using AI. It's up to you.
No, fuck them. Them haters.
And then also one more thing as well, if you don't mind, Mark. There's also, because this will come out just towards the end of next week. So there's also a charity campaign that's running via Merlin Miniatures, which the team have worked with previously before. It's called Miniatures for Mental Health. It's raising money for mental health, to support mental health, a charity called Mind, which is in line with Mental Health Week next week. So we're raising money for charity. So they'll be selling a whole bunch of donated miniatures from creators within the hobby. So yeah, there'll be a full list of like amazing miniatures available on Merlin Miniatures website next week as well. So if you wanted to come dive in or just donate to a worthy cause, that'd be awesome. So thank you so much.
Yeah, that sounds very cool. I know people do all types of mental healths everywhere, and whether you're in the UK or Canada or wherever, I'm sure you can find something local and contribute. But hey, like you said, we have a nice little relationship with Merlin's Miniatures, so definitely go help them out. And you scratch my back and all that kind of stuff, so it's nice. Well, that's an episode of Lorehammer. Thanks everyone. Gothic Garnish. Thanks for joining us. I know you stayed up late, but good to have you. Jordan, I know you weren't drinking, but good to have you. Christian, never good to have you. I'm glad you survived the Liber Malleus, so.
Yeah, well.
All right, everyone. We'll see you on the next episode. Adios.